Boundary Bootcamp. Navy wasn't bad at life. She was bad at boundaries, which it turned out was basically the same thing. At work, she could close a six-figure deal without blinking. At home, someone would ask her to dog sit their incontinent poodle during a blizzard, and she'd probably say yes, smiling through gritted teeth. It wasn't that she didn't know better. It's just that nobody had ever taught her how to say no without feeling like she hadn't kicked a kitten. Life, however, was a patient teacher. And when it came to boundaries, life had signed Navy up for a very specific course, boot camp, boundary boot camp. There would be pop quizzes, there would be awkward scenes, there would be guilt, and eventually there would be freedom. Because sometimes you just don't get better at something until you mess it up a few times at first. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you get to laugh about it later. This is Navy's story. It starts with good intentions. It ends with popcorn, dog poop, and the most satisfying no she ever said. The story. Just another Thursday. Navy pulled into the driveway on fumes, her SUV sticky with spilled sports drinks, lost receipts, and at least one fossilized French fry that she had fused to the console. The little dogs, Turbo and Tilly, launched themselves at the front window, yapping like Navy was the best thing that had ever happened to them. It was so cute. It was also deafening. Inside, the house smelled like wet socks and pizza. Not bad, not great, just a boy house. She dropped her purse, kicked off one boot, and dodged a flying Nerf dart that whizzed past her head. "Sorry, Mom," one of the twins yelled. Either Cole or Caleb, she wasn't sure which one, from their couch fortress. "It's fine," she said. Kalia, her 15-year-old stepdaughter, peeked around the corner from the kitchen, her earbuds dangling. "Hey, Navy," Grandma called. "She said the lasagna's in the oven and I'm heading to my mom's after dinner, okay?" "Sounds good, honey," Navy said. And it did. God bless her mother for still checking in, for preloading dinner, and for being the reason Navy hadn't gone full feral after Ken died. It had been 2 years, 2 months from diagnosis to funeral. One day they were talking about hockey tryouts. The next, they were reading hospital brochures nobody wanted. After Ken passed, her mother moved in for a while, keeping the kids fed and the laundry rotating, while Navy tried to remember what day it was. Now life was busy and noisy and messy and running. It was running because Navy made it run. 3 kids, 2 dogs, 1 mortgage, 0 husband, and no backup plan. Between soccer practices and school fundraisers, last-minute science projects, and the endless parade of snack requests, Navy still managed to work full-time. Farm machinery sales, of all things. Big rigs, big egos, big commission checks. She dealt mostly with men who respected 2 things, competence and grit. Luckily, Navy had both. At work, she could close a $300,000 deal without blinking. At home, well, let's just say saying no to farmers was easier than saying no to her own people. The backyard shimmered through the patio door, catching her eye. A clean, sparkling pool, blue as a country sky. Ken had insisted on it, back when things were good, even installed a heater to extend the swimming season. The pool was supposed to be for family time, for cannonballs and night swims and lazy Sunday afternoons, and it was that. It also became occasionally an unspoken invitation for neighbors, classmates, distant cousins, and anyone within shouting distance to treat Navy's backyard like a public beach. Having a pool, she learned, was like putting up a neon sign that said, "Yes, you, come on in. No, really, bring 20 friends." The dogs whined to be let out, and she slid the open door. Turbo barreled past her towards the lawn like his life depended on it. Tilly stood still, looking up at Navy with suspicious wisdom, like she already knew what was coming. Because life was about to start sending Navy a whole lot of pop quizzes. And this time the subject was boundary. Ready or not, the lessons were about to begin. The tiny favor that wasn't. Navy was halfway through reheating a cup of coffee in the microwave, the 3rd time because life was like that, when her phone buzzed on the counter. Sandy Harlow, an old friend from way back, high school farm girls turned suburban survivors. Navy smiled, answering with a chipper, "Hey, stranger." "Hey, Navy." Sandy's voice was all sunshine and trouble. Listen, quick question. You still got that awesome backyard pool, right? Navy glanced out the window at the pool, glistening like it had no idea it was about to be betrayed. Yeah, I still have it, she said cautiously, cradling the phone between her ear and shoulder while she freed Turbo from his attempt to chew open a bag of bread. Perfect. So, funny story. My niece's birthday is this weekend. She's turning 6, and we're going to have it at the community center. But there was some mix up, and long story short, Sandy let the silence hang, sweet and sticky like bait. Navy's stomach tightened. She knew that tone. It was the sound of a favor riding on a Trojan horse. You're wondering if you could use my backyard? Navy finished for her, already feeling the future migraine blooming. Just for a few hours, Sandy rushed in. Honestly, you wouldn't have to do anything. We'll bring snacks, towels, everything, totally low-key. You won't even know that we're there, which was a lie. Because Navy knew exactly how low-key a 6-year-old birthday party by the pool was going to be. Noise, screaming, popsicles melting into the patio stones, a trail of soggy footprints through the house because somebody forgot a towel. She opened her mouth to say no. She really did. And then she pictured Sandy's hopeful face and the little 6-year-old and her own kids who would probably want in on the chaos. And then she heard herself say, "Sure, why not?" As she hung up, she stared at her reflection in the black screen of the microwave. "You're a damn menace to yourself," she told it. Turbo barked like he agreed. The party that pushed it. Navy was a genius. She had played it smart, agreed to the party, tidied up the backyard, updated some landscaping to make everything look perfect, even power washed the patio like she was hosting a royal visit. So she got the boys off to their soccer tournament, and Callie was away at her mom's, and the little dogs, Turbo and Tilly, they were safely crated in the basement, far away from the shrieking 6-year-old stampede that was about to descend. She had it all figured out. She wouldn't even be there. She'd run errands, maybe even get herself a fancy coffee, and walk around the garden center, pretending she had time to plant things. 3.5 hours. That's all she was gone, 3.5 hours. When she stepped back into the house, the first thing she noticed wasn't the quiet. It was the smell. Something wrong. Something deeply, deeply offensively wrong. Turbo and Tilly whined from the basement like tiny, furry convicts. Navy kicked off her shoes, bracing herself, and headed towards the kitchen, only to step in a damp patch, then another and another. The faint, wet trail led from the back door to the main bathroom. Her linen closet hung open like a crime scene, half of the good towels missing, scattered across the floor like fallen soldiers. She followed the smell downstairs. Someone, bless their helpful heart, had apparently fed the dogs cakes or hot dogs or literal trash because Turbo had explosively redecorated his crate. Tilly had added interpretive footwork. Navy just stood there for a minute, breathing through her mouth, wondering how it was even biologically possible for two 12-pound dogs to produce this much content. Back upstairs, she checked the backyard. The garbage was bagged, sure, neatly, and left by the side of the house for her to drag out to the curb Monday. Awesome. The pool was missing at least 4 inches of water from a day of cannonballs and belly flops. The patio furniture was back in place-ish. No 6-year-old remains, no adult either. Just the aftermath. Navy slumped against the doorframe, her jeans sticking to her ankles from the wet footprints. This, she thought grimly, was why saying, "Sure, why not," got you. Dog poop, a kitchen swamp, bag of damp garbage fermenting by the house, and a lingering scent of betrayal. And the kicker, she didn't even get a slice of birthday cake. The night she almost gave in. Friday night was sacred. Navy had been planning it like a pilgrimage. The boys were off at her parents' farm, Grandma to the rescue again. Kalia had picked up an extra shift at work. The house, empty and silent. A temple of peace. Well, except for the pups. Navy lit a candle, put on her raggedy plaid pajama pants, the ones that no human soul besides her kids had seen, and set up the popcorn maker. A glorious, artery-clogging mountain of butter was melting on the stove. She even pulled out a bottle of wine she had been saving for approximately a decade. The movie was queued up. The popcorn was just starting to spill into the big glass bowl. Her bathrobe clinched tight like a soldier's uniform. She was seconds away from bliss. Then her phone rang. She should have let it go to voicemail. She should have launched it into the pool, but no. Navy internal optimist checked it. Rita, the neighbor. The neighbor who historically had very loose ideas about favors and very tight ideas about gratitude. Hey, Navy, I see your car's home, Rita chirped when she picked up. I really need a hand. Could you pick up Micah, the new worker we hired for my dad? I'm stuck finishing up an apartment for a move-in tomorrow, and with Dad's stroke, things have just been so crazy. I wouldn't ask, but I'm really in a bind. Navy blinked at the popcorn bowl, which was now cheerfully overflowing. Deep breath. Rita, she chose her word carefully, I'm sorry, but I can't. There was a pause, an incredible pause. Like Rita had just overheard a cow speaking Latin. Well, what are you doing right now? Rita pressed, voice light with desperation. Another breath. I know things are rough for you right now, Navy said, gripping the counter with her free hand, but I just can't. Rita wasn't giving up. It's just a quick trip, 15 minutes, honestly. You'll be doing me such a huge favor. And that's when something inside Navy, some long, tiny, abused part of her, finally stood up and put on its own little bathrobe. Rita, your lack of planning isn't my emergency. Silence. Okay then, Rita snapped and hung up. Navy stood there for a moment, hand in one hand, popcorn bowl in the other, feeling like she's just been slapped and knighted at the same time. She poured herself the biggest black glass of wine she had, cranked the movie volume up, and curled up on the couch. She ate every last buttery kernel. She drank the wine. She watched the entire movie without getting up once. And she felt mostly good, a little bad, but mostly good. Growth, she realized, sometimes felt a lot like guilt at first. You just had to sit with it and let it pass, preferably with popcorn. The power of 3. By late September, the pool was supposed to be closed. Navy had it on the calendar. Pump down, cover on, goodbye cannonballs. It was one of those tasks Ken had always handled, a yearly ritual of winterizing that made her miss it a little sharper than usual at this time. She was gearing up to shut it all down when a text from her sister pinged through. Hey sis, was thinking, could you hold off closing the pool a bit? Maybe heat it for a few more days? We want to do a small family gathering for Uncle Joe's 80th. Would be awesome at your place. Navy read the message twice, then a third time. Like maybe if she squinted it would say something else, something sane. Heat the pool, host a family party, keep the pool open, maintained and clean, all for somebody else's plan. She set her phone down, took a long breath and smiled. No anger, no guilt, no drama, just a simple, clean boundary. She picked up the phone and texted back, sorry, that doesn't work for me. Almost instantly, her sister called, persistent like they all were. Come on, Navy, she said, why not? It's just one afternoon. Uncle Joe would love it. We'll keep it small, super easy. Navy tucked her free hand into the pocket of her jeans, steady. That doesn't work for me, she said again, gently but firmly. But we'll bring the food, we'll clean up after, you won't have to lift a finger. Navy smiled, almost feeling fond. The old Navy might have craved in at this stage, over-explaining, negotiating, bending herself like a human pretzel, but not today. She breathed in and said it a third time, warm, slow, and steady. That does not work for me. There was a pause, and then her sister sighed. Okay, we'll figure out something else then. Navy smiled again, hanging up without a single sliver of guilt slipping in. Later, curled up on the deck with Turbo snoring at her feet and Tilly sunbathing like a diva, she realized something important. Every no was a yes to something out better, a yes to quiet, a yes to peace, a yes to the life she was still building, one small, brave boundary at a time. Chaos on aisle 3. When Rita called and asked if Navy wanted to go for a walk, she felt like that was a bit of a gift. It was a beautiful fall evening. Kalia was home, the boys were about to watch a movie, and Navy had been craving a little fresh air and movement. Yes, she said, feeling light. Sounds perfect. Rita showed up outside her home with two dogs. They're not regular dogs. One was a three-legged poodle who looked perpetually confused. The third was blind, old, and had the walking enthusiasm of a sack of wet laundry. Navy hesitated for a second. This isn't exactly what I pictured. She pushed the feeling down. It's fine. It'll be fine. Push through. They headed off, shuffling along at a funeral procession pace. 5 blocks later, they reached the grocery store. Navy needed two things, and Rita offered to wait outside with the dogs. Navy popped inside, grabbed her items in under 5 minutes, and came back out to find Rita deep in conversation with a woman sitting by the door with a cardboard sign. Navy barely had time to register what was happening when Rita handed her the leashes. "My turn," Rita said, and disappeared into the store. The woman begging at the door immediately locked onto Navy like she was a heat-seeking missile. "Hey, hun," she said, her voice raspy from cigarettes and life. "Took a muscle relaxant last night. Shat myself. Had to throw away all my clothes." She jerked a thumb to the man slumped outside the liquor store. "He can't even think about it without puking. Poor guy." Navy froze, clutching the leashes, praying that maybe she was hallucinating. "And my boy over there," the woman added, pointing to a 20-something slumped on a bench. "He had to wash the sheets. Poor kid." Navy nodded stiffly, silently wondering if she could pretend to receive an emergency call from the CIA and vanish. And just like that, more chaos. A young couple came out of the store holding a pizza. They handed it to the woman who lit up like Christmas morning. "Except, I'm gluten-free," she said breezily, waving the pizza away. "Bring it to my husband," she added, motioning lazily to the liquor store. The young couple, now trapped as Navy, gamely obeyed. The son abandoned his bench and jogged after them, eager to devour the glutinous offerings. Meanwhile, the woman kept talking about bad landlords, about government housing being a hellhole, can't even get hot water half the time, she griped, lighting another cigarette without missing a beat. This damn country, these damn doctors, these damn social workers. Navy stood there in the cold, draped in the sound of the ranting, two ancient dogs drooling at her feet. She felt like a hostage trapped in a dirty, dripping human shower, other people's soap scum and cigarette smoke clinging to her without mercy. The peaceful walk she had envisioned was a distant memory, fading like a dream she barely remembered. Rita had been inside for 30 minutes. When she finally emerged, Navy felt the faint, desperate thrill of rescue, only for Rita to vanish again, chirping that she needed to grab a bag of potatoes to share with the woman. Navy's jaw actually dropped. Potatoes, because obviously this night needs sides. The blind dog sat down and refused to move. The three-legged poodle whimpered, then collapsed dramatically against Navy's shin. When Rita returned, beaming and victorious, she said brightly, "Can you carry one of the dogs or my groceries?" Navy looked down at her two small grocery items, looked at the dogs, looked at the chaos storm spinning around her. For the first time in her life, she didn't shove her feelings down. She didn't fake a smile. She didn't tell herself to be polite. She just knew no more. Looking back, she realized she could have tied the dogs to a post, or handed them to the woman begging at the door, or walked away, but she didn't. She carried one of the old dogs, shouldered Rita's half a bag of potatoes, and walked the longest 5 blocks of her life, quiet, tired, done. By the time she got home, she wasn't angry. She wasn't even sad. She was clear. Rita would never get another yes. Not a walk, not a favor, not a potato. Never again. Navy locked the door behind her, tossed her two lonely groceries on the counter, and smiled the biggest true smile she's smiled in years. Lesson passed. Boundary boot camp complete. Well, thanks for staying with me till the end. The truth is, life will never stop handing out boundary tests. There will always be someone who wants a little more than you have to give. There will always be a fork in the road between people-pleasing and self-respecting. And the real lesson? It isn't about being hard, and it isn't about being selfish. It's about learning that every time you say no to something that drains you, you are saying yes to a life that honors you. You are saying yes to rest, yes to laughter, yes to showing up fully for the people and moments that matter most. Yes to yourself, not the stretched, stressed, thin version of you, but the real you. Setting boundaries isn't rejection, it's an act of love for yourself, for the life you're still building, for the peace you deserve to keep. Navy didn't learn this in a day, and neither do any of us. We learn it one awkward moment at a time, one tiny, courageous moment at a time, one deep breath at a time. Every time we do, we come home to ourselves a little more. If this story has made you laugh, nod, or maybe even breathe a little easier, please feel free to like, share, or subscribe. It helps to find itself to more good-hearted people like yourself, and it means the world to the ones who write and create them. Thanks for walking this road to me. You're doing better than you think, and your no is more powerful and more beautiful than you know.